observed a very interesting phenomenon when we were doing some other stuff with Anna on fast procurement. Was it so, Anna? Yeah?
Yeah, it was during that process.
And we observed that some companies are actually sort of embracing uncertainty, leaving specifications kind of vague and open when they start sourcing. So we observed that this is actually something new. We observed a new way of sourcing, a new sourcing process. So we wanted to understand that. And I think that was maybe a starting point for our research. Or what do you think, Anna?
Yeah. And then we also they also noticed that as we all know, procurement is coming more and more strategic, so that and supporting more business, and they need to be involved in procuring, how do you say it, business solutions maybe, and in specific those situations, the uncertainty might be high and you can't and don't want to avoid it if you want to procure innovative solutions, and that the traditional approaches might not work.
So the idea is to understand agile approach to sourcing, a new sourcing process. And the way we frame the research is that we see this as an information processing issue. So there is a deliberate embracing of uncertainty. There's high uncertainty in each of the steps of the sourcing process. And then the managers employ different mechanisms to sort of address that uncertainty. So we try to understand the mechanisms that are used to manage uncertainty. I think that's the core, right? Anna, or what do you think?
We divided sourcing into 3 steps, so that is like a simple steps: determine specification, supplier selections, and contracting. And agile sourcing as an approach has implications to all of these 3 steps. So we had a multiple case study. We had 3 cases, one from UK, which was UK government procuring ventilators during COVID-19. We had a Finnair sourcing of their mobile app, and then we had a Nordic retailer sourcing of IT end user services. So it was multiple case study. We had interviews, workshops, a lot of documentations and other secondary sources. But I think that might be most interesting for the readers is that we had a critical realisms approach, which meant that we tried to find the underlying generative mechanisms, and that impacted how we analyzed the data. So we used retroduction and process tracing to identify generative mechanisms and operating across the different sourcing steps or stages.
At the core of the findings is obviously understanding what agile sourcing is, what does the process look like, and certainly we focused obviously on the mechanisms. So we first identify really the driver of information processing requirement or uncertainty in each of the steps, and then we identify the mechanisms, which I think was very interesting to observe what managers do. I think that was the first, a long list, but I think something that was maybe more interesting for me was how they manage uncertainty in the beginning. So obviously they need some sort of attention directing top-down schemas in order to kind of direct the sourcing process somewhere.
For
instance, kind of like a
you...
functional specification of sorts.
So,
yeah.
Or user stories.
Yeah, something like that. And also, I think in the supplier selection step, quite interesting is this sort of experience-based supplier selection. So they actually start collaborating quite intensely with several suppliers in order to understand how collaboration feels and looks like with the supplier, so that then they can select and understand which supplier would be the best one for the actual delivery of the solution. So that was quite interesting. But there's a long list of mechanisms actually.
But that was actually highlighted by our interviewers, so respondents, so that in this kind of when having high uncertainty, so it's not only like technical skills of the suppliers, but it's also their collaboration skills, soft skills, how the cultures are. So using some kind of experience-based supplier selection mechanisms or practice really helped them, and they emphasized the importance of it. So working together before selecting the final supplier. In all of these cases, the suppliers were new for the focal companies.
Yeah, very good. Maybe the second observation is that these mechanisms are also interdependent. So you might use a mechanism in the first step, and that has implications to the second step and so forth. So we identify these interdependencies, and that makes managing the overall process quite complex and challenging for the managers. Yeah.
So I think we have quite a few, but I would like to start from kind of, I don't know how to put it, but maybe even reconceptualization of uncertainty. So instead of only trying to cope with uncertainty, really to put it as a, I don't know, strategic resource, embrace uncertainty as agile sourcing is definitely one of our implications.
Yeah, and that's why we actually maybe courageously say that our research is linked to anti-fragility, which is a very provocative topic, I think. But so what we are saying is that you embrace uncertainty deliberately in order to actually achieve a better outcome, so higher value for the internal customer, for the business, and so forth, and maybe even faster. You get to the target, to the goal faster by using the agile approach. So that's why we are saying that maybe this is an anti-fragile approach in the context of sourcing process. So that was quite interesting for us. And then also I think implications to research is that there's very interesting research done on sourcing services, and also kind of like looking at different variations of the sourcing process, and uncertainty is, I think, part of that research. And I think that our research then maybe advances this literature in order to understand how you can actually cope with uncertainty or even embrace uncertainty in the sourcing process. So maybe a contribution to this literature as well.
Then I would also say that our like a mechanism-based definition of agile sourcing is theoretical implications, and also that this critical realism's approach as well in supply chain management, and the method that we have been used is a contribution to the academic audience.
Yes, indeed. I think this is kind of a managerial implication as well. So what we observed maybe is that so this is a new way of sourcing, a new kind of sourcing process, a new approach, and it seems that it requires quite a bit from the organization, so at the buyer side. So they have to make their organization agile as well, accommodate and adjust the way sourcing is done. So different sourcing managers have to learn it. Internal customers need to learn it. Suppliers need to adapt to this new sourcing process. So there's much adaptation to be done in order to actually use this process. And first of all, it obviously requires organizational changes in the buyer's organization. So that is a managerial implication and a future research topic as well. So we are interested in how does an organization actually make themselves agile and can use this process in procurement. So that is interesting.
One is more relates to our methods, so that we sampled kind of a positive sampling, so that we were trying to find cases that had successful outcomes. But it would be also interesting to see to have unsuccessful examples and maybe see so that why didn't they work and compare those two.
Yeah. And related to that, I think it's also something that we are playing around with is maybe using a qualitative or even a quantitative approach to understand how and which mechanisms actually contribute to best performance outcomes in agile sourcing context. So what is important in terms of actually delivering the highest value and maybe even fast. So we are thinking maybe sampling several projects and understanding these relationships.
In different contexts,
yeah.
Because our research showed that contexts matter, of course.